My guest today is Phil Kelley, who is running for State Senate District 13 right here in Colorado. Today, all of our subjects are about money in politics. And the first thing we're going to try and tackle here is, and this is something that we talked about before we started recording, there are three ways to get money out of politics. Phil, why don't you explain the three different ways and what is good and what is bad?
We have a situation here in the entire country, but let's just look at this district, where everyone has to raise an obscene amount of money just to run, to represent you. But it corrupts our government, it corrupts the individuals that are taking the money. And here's how it generally works. You can do it the way the Republicans do it, whereas they just play ball with their corporate owners, and they can just turn on the spigot anytime they wish. Get all the money. I had another candidate. He said, I was rather upset. I had 6 people in my living room, all from the oil and gas industry, and they only gave me $25,000. What do you think he has to do for that $25,000? Well, he has to toe the company line. There is no representing you, the people. There is only representing the corporation. Then there's the second way, which I will not participate in. I've told them right back. Not going to be part of what I do. You can go as a Democrat and go talk to corporations. They will give the money to the party, and then the party will turn over the money to you so you can claim you don't take PAC money. No. That is not what's going to happen. That's not good for Colorado. That's not good for our republic. And then there's the third way, the way I do it. I simply say, if you're interested in my message, if you believe in my message, if you believe that I will represent you and not the corporations, don't get me wrong, corporations are important to our society. But they do not and cannot control us completely any longer and try to have this illusion of a republic any longer. We must stand up and we must fight for what's right. I did not go to Vietnam and spend those years in the jungles and fighting in Vietnam. My son did not go to Iraq for 4 years, like so many tens of thousands of you, and fight for what's going on and what's decent in this country simply for it to be purchased by the rich and the powerful. No, this is our country, and we need to take it, hold on to it, and serve it like we always have. There was in my oath of office, and so many of you took it too, defend this country from all enemies, foreign and domestic. That is why I'm running. I am sick and tired of this country being purchased office by office, and they do what they want, and the middle class and the lower in poverty just get deeper and deeper and deeper in trouble. No, we need people who will stand up once again and fight for a republic for everyone.
Let me put forward a fourth solution to the money issues. And I hate to go to the UK again, but I'm a Brit. In the UK, if you're running for a member of parliament, there is an absolute top-end limit on the amount of money you're allowed to spend during your campaign. And it may surprise people over here, but we're not talking in the millions of dollars. We're talking in the thousands of dollars. And I believe at the moment it's about $15,000 that can be spent by an MP on his election campaign, and that's, you know, an incredibly small amount of money.
Right.
Because the Conservative Party and the Labour Party, obviously, they can do as much television advertising as they wish. So how the two parties raise money is up to them. But when it comes to you running as a member of Parliament, you can spend, as I said, I think it's about £15,000, about $20,000. This was done for a number of reasons, but the main reason was A, keep money out of politics, but B, it gives everyone a flat playing field. Right. So anyone in England can run as a member of Parliament or to become a member of Parliament, which makes our elections rather interesting because we don't just have 2 or 3 candidates running. We can have 5, 6, 7, 8 different candidates all running for a particular seat. And, you know, as we talked, and I think this is just a nice thing, we used to have this rock musician in England called Screaming Lord Sutch. Every year he used to run for Parliament. You've got to love that name. Every year he used to run for Parliament.
Yeah. Yeah, it's amazing here, and I know people know this, to run for an average congressional seat in this state takes well over $3 million. $3 million. These people are not giving money because they believe in the beauty of our republic. They're giving money so that person can support their needs when they're in office. This needs to stop. We need to have people in there that are totally committed to the people and creating a society from the bottom up, not from the boardroom down. It's what we've had in this country for far too many years.
And of course, it all went to pot, really went to pot, when we went to Citizens United. And that has caused more damage in politics than I think any other thing the Supreme Court has actually passed. And it's also interesting that Citizens United basically gives the corporation the ability to act as an individual. But when a corporation does something wrong, do you actually see them being taken to court as an individual?
Never.
Rarely.
Yeah.
Rarely. It just
and even if they're
doesn't
taken
happen.
to court, they're only given a fine and nobody ever goes to jail.
No, yeah. Look at the financial meltdown.
Yeah, exactly.
The only people that went to jail, and I think there was 2 or 3 of them, were low-level people.
Exactly.
None of the ones at the top did. And I think that in itself was criminal.
Very, very much so.
Absolutely criminal.
Yeah, I mean, there was so many options to do that bailout, as they called it, another way. But they chose the way that only benefited the oligarchs, the super rich in this country.
Yes.
They could have taken that same amount of money and paid off all of the mortgages and all the credit card bills in this country.
Mm-hmm.
Or they could have taken that exact same amount of money and do what they did to it, give it to the rich.
Yeah.
Which one do you think would have benefited the people of this country more? It's always have to be, there's 2 sides, as they say, to every story. 2 sides to a coin.
Right. Oh, and then there's the truth.
Exactly. And why is it that every time we come up with the sticky end of the stick?
I know.
Every time.
Every time.
And then they give us the excuse, if the owner class doesn't have this, it will hurt us all. No, them getting it hurts us.
And of course, along these lines, talking about the stick, was it the sticky end of
The stick?
The sticky end of the stick. That's a bit of a tongue twister. Let's talk about corporate welfare.
Yes.
Where people really, they're getting hit by the stick.
Yes. And, it was very interesting. When you look at the corporate welfare that's collected in this country, every year, it's obscene. They say in the country alone, it's between $150 and $200 billion a year going the way of corporate welfare.
I tell you what, why don't you explain a little bit about what corporate welfare really is, just in case someone hasn't quite fully grasped
Certainly.
This concept.
When you've got an auto company coming into your community or another major manufacturer, they will give them free land, they will give them tax abatements virtually forever. They pay nothing. And then they actually pay them to pay their employees. This is corporate welfare we can no longer accept. For the billions of dollars, they're always talking about the welfare queens. Well, excuse me, the biggest welfare queens in this country are Amazon, McDonald's, Walmart, and so many of the other major corporations collecting your hard-earned tax money for their bottom line. No, I just this morning on my way over here, I stopped for a cup of coffee. And I got a cup of coffee and there was a sign out front looking for employees, hiring. And I asked the manager, how much do you pay? And he said, start at $10.50 an hour. The very most they pay is $13 an hour. Those are poverty wages. That means people working for this company have to go out and get welfare for food, for housing, for medical, and so many other necessities of life just to survive. So the collecting of the corporate welfare by cheap wages is also morally reprehensible. These are the things that we need to stop and have a fair shot at society. This is what money in politics has done. Mm-hmm. It's allowed them to pass to elect the people that pass the laws that benefit them. This is why we're in the situation we're in now, is because of corporate welfare on so many levels.
I can understand states wanting to offer incentives, and actually Colorado has been quite successful in this, but I don't know the long-term effects. But of course, far better that manufacturing and corporations stay within America than move somewhere else.
Yes. Let's take a look at the opportunity we have here in Colorado right now. Just last week, I was speaking to a company called Terra Industries. They're an industry, they're brand new, they're designing, building, and selling farm implements to hemp farmers in the state. Right now, the United States Congress is looking at legalizing hemp production all over the country. They're waiting for this and need it drastically to be able to start really manufacturing. But if we do not pass this agriculture bill by next week, that means it's going to die and all the legislation goes away. And guess where they're going to go? To a friendly country. They're going to move their manufacturing base from where they want it to be right here in Colorado. They're moving it across the border to Canada because Canada now has legalized hemp completely and they have no problems. We need desperately to get out of the 18th, 19th century mentality that hemp is some type of an evil weed. I was just flabbergasted at the amount of products, 20,000 as it stands right now. And that's even before researchers have ever gotten a hold of it and started to develop new things. Like, for example, we're always talking about waste, and we're always talking about landfills, and all of the, plastics that never die. It being biodegradable is so much more better for our environment.
So much more better.
And then when we look at our water problems here in Colorado, water is our precious resource. If we do not start to make the reasonable decisions now, we are going to have to make draconian decisions in the very near future. Why don't we make changes now? Again, money in politics. The powerful don't want it. But it's only reasonable for the entire state. Let's look at the crop of hemp. It takes half the water of corn, wheat, or beans. Less than half the pesticides or any of the other expense. A hemp farmer was telling me just the other day that if he plants on an equal portion of land, alfalfa versus hemp, the profits in hemp are 150 times more.
Yes.
The profits, the reason everything for our state is going, this can be a true godsend to our state in the way of jobs, in the way of money, in a sustainable future, not this wasting of our precious resources.
Right.
But the only way we get there is, again, to have people who are elected who want to represent people, not just the needs of the corporation.
Well, also they need to also represent common sense.
No,
let's be honest, hemp should never have been made illegal in the first place.
Never.
That's right, right, back in the 30s. And even back in the 30s, hemp was an amazing thing that they were using for making paper. Well, the list goes on. We don't have
20,000 products. Yeah,
we don't have enough time in the show for that.
In fact, during World War II, it was actually brought back and it was cultivated for the products for the war.
Yeah. I never knew that.
Yeah.
I never knew that.
Yeah, we've got 104, as I'm told, we have 104 different chemicals in CBD. Can you imagine when scientists can really start to look at this and really find out what they can do? Can you imagine the explosion in products we'll have from that? And it'll save us on oil, another precious resource.
Yes.
So it's all the way around. It's a win-win for everyone.
It's a no-brainer.
Yeah, it literally is. But then again, the no-brains are the ones that have the financial interests, like the paper industry. We've got millions of acres of forest. What would we do with all this if people started making paper from hemp?
Right.
It's their financial interest rather than the interest of the state, the community, and the people who live in it.
Yeah. It's the interests of individuals rather than the interests of the all. Talking of the interests of the all, let's move on to minimum and maximum wage limits.
Obviously, the owner of a company would like to pay his people as little as possible. That's just common sense. But when you don't pay your people enough to live on, in a society that has already said a very minimum for a family of just 2 people, $15 an hour. When you do that, and you only pay somebody $10 or $11 an hour, they don't have enough money for housing, for fuel, for medical, for any of this. Therefore, what happens is it goes on welfare. Somebody then, we, the taxpayers, pay for the health care. We pay for all these things. And in reality, what it comes back to is corporate welfare. What I say is this. Every company that does not pay its people a living wage, then the state will collect all those bills and give them a bill at the end of the year. Here you go, Walmart, pay up for all the poverty and misery that you've created because you won't pay. But yet your owners, the Walton family, make $6 billion each off of our shopping. No, you've lived off us long enough. Now it's time that we created a society from the bottom up. Like I said, not the boardroom down.
When the minimum wage came in, and I don't know what it was back then, but if it had kept track with inflation, the minimum wage today would be something like $19 to $20 per hour.
You think that would make a difference in this society?
Oh, none whatsoever.
No.
Yes, it would make a heck of a difference.
A huge difference.
Not only for the quality of life, but also the economy. These people that are having to live like this would now have money to spend. Oh my goodness. What are they going to spend it on? Goods.
Goods.
Oh my goodness. Who does that help? Everybody.
Yeah, it's like these crazy tax cuts for the rich.
Yes.
They said, oh, we have to give these tax cuts to the rich. For what reason? No reason except they demanded it of their Republican toadies. You will give us this or we will stop contributing. That's why they did it.
Yeah.
And all the money did not go anywhere except into their bank accounts, into their pockets. That's it. It didn't help the economy, didn't help anybody, but it sure hurt us for a society. $1.5 trillion like that?
That's right.
No, but this is the balanced budget party.
What amazes me is they're still talking of trickle down.
I know.
The only thing that trickles down is if I leave the tap on slightly.
Yes.
Ever since Reagan, there has been no proof whatsoever that trickle down works.
We need once again to return to Keynesian economic policies.
Right.
And Keynesian economic policies worked. From the time of the Great Depression all the way to we were sold that bill of goods on trickle down, we were under Keynesian economics. And in that structure, what happened to our society? It flourished, it bloomed. We had education, we had middle class. And by middle class, I don't mean somebody who's working 80 hours a week. I'm talking 40 hours a week, one person, wife at home, taking care of the kids. That's middle class. What we have today is not middle class. It's middle subservitude to the owner class where you give up your life of 80 hours a week just to be able to say you're middle class. No, that is nothing more than indentured servitude.
We mentioned maximum. I know you've got some radical ideas when it comes to this. Why don't you talk about maximum wage limits?
All right. Well, when you look back at what President Roosevelt did in the Great Depression, we had a tax rate that was up in the 90th percentile of everything over $5 million. What that did for our society was give us the money to be able to produce and to be able to sustain a decent society. It gave the middle class its birth, along with unions and a few other things. If we were to do that again today, our budget deficit would be wiped out. Is there anyone out there that actually thinks that these ultra-billionaires, that they would not be able to live on $100 million a year, $200 million a year? What's the number? I'll negotiate a number. But when you're talking tens of billions of dollars, that is immoral when there is so much pain and suffering and need for those resources in other places. It makes no sense morally, religiously, or in any other possible way, except once again, you have money in politics that elects these people and continues the bribery, continues the assault on the American people, stripping our democratic republic away and turning us into an oligarchy. When I have people, when you look at the streets anywhere around Colorado and you see the homelessness, the poverty and the suffering, you see the mental illness. Oh, my God, there is so much mental illness. A lot of these are PTSD from veterans.
Yes.
They were just thrown into the streets. You always hear them say, we love our veterans, until the election's over. You hear the same thing about schools. We love our teachers. We're going to get you more money. After the election, what?
No.
Who said what?
Yeah.
No, this cannot stop. We need people with backbone and with ideas that are going to stand up to these powers and say, no, you will not do it. And I know I'll only be one voice in the Senate, but that voice is going to be a loud voice. And I will stand on the Capitol dome if I have to. But people will understand what the rich and powerful are going to try to do to us in this state, because I will set off the alarms.
Let's change track a little bit, but it's still money related. Climate change. Climate change is happening.
Oh, yes.
There is not a rational person in the whole world that doesn't understand this.
Yes.
In fact, near enough all the governments, except for two, understand this.
Yes.
Which, again, is incredibly surprising.
Then it's money.
It's
money interest. They're telling them, no, you do not believe in this.
Yeah.
And they go, yes, boss.
Yeah. I mean, it's all coming from the coal industry and the oil industry.
Exactly.
Do you have any thoughts about this outside of that?
Oh, boy. Yes. What we're doing to our precious earth is literally insane. It's only for the benefit of a few is the reason we have, once again, the policies we have. Let's look at, I was just listening to a scientist here the other day. Next year, the year after, will be the first year we have no ice in the Arctic during the summer. When that happens, it slows down the polar vortex, it slows down the currents in the ocean, and with our Rocky Mountains here, you think we have a water problem now? Wait for that to happen. It's like I was saying earlier, we need to start making logical decisions now, or it's going to be catastrophic decisions later. And which brings us back to crops for our farmers, which we can do. Once again, that hemp, half the water. We cannot continue to allow the gas and oil industry to pour hundreds of thousands of gallons down a well and just be wasted. That is water we're going to need. And I know darn well this is going to be unpopular, but it's going to have to be discussed. Before we get to the crisis point, stop watering lawns. Green lawns may look good, but is a pure waste of water and resources. Let's go to what is natural in this state. And we can do it from that standpoint. There's a lot of absolutely beautiful landscapes and things we can do with our yards, except for short, beautifully manicured green grass. It's not needed. It cannot be sustained. We must be able to have a society that in all things is sustainable for long term, not just short-term benefit of a few.
About 10 or 11 years ago, we had a severe drought here in Colorado, and I know this is a little bit before your time of actually coming here, where an El Nino effect had actually caused a great lack of snowfall for 2 years running.
Right.
So the summer, at the end of the second winter, everyone was literally being told to be careful of water usage, be careful of water usage.
Right.
Everybody listened, except the towns. It used to drive me insane. I'd be driving down Main Street, and the greenest thing there was the cemetery, because the sprinkler systems were going all summer long. Millions of gallons of water.
Yeah.
They were watering the sidewalks next to the mall. They were watering everywhere. But me as a private individual, I couldn't get my car cleaned.
Right. We need to have water for use that actually is necessity.
Right.
It is too valuable.
It's like the oil and gas. If they're going to do fracking, why can't they use grey water?
Yeah. Or
You
find
know,
other alternatives.
or find other alternatives. But probably water is, unfortunately, the alternative. But they could use grey water very simply, because that water is going to end up thousands of feet below ground.
Yeah. Never recovered.
Never recovered.
Gone forever.
Yeah.
Yeah. We cannot allow these things to happen any longer.
That's right.
And like I said, the longer we wait, the worse it's going to get.
Phil, are there any closing statements or points you'd like to bring up?
My fellow Coloradans, there are a few things. I guess the bottom line here is I would like to be part of creating a sustainable economy and society. What we've been doing only works for a few. It does not work for all of us. This is a republic. This is our country. Not just the rich and the powerful, it's ours. If you feel powerless, it's because of the money in politics and what they've done to us over 40 years that's made you feel that way. Stand up. Take a stand. We can still take this country back and create a society that's balanced for everyone, not just the rich and the powerful.
Phil, once again, thank you very, very much for joining us here at the Lounge. It's been a pleasure working with you again on this show. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us once more here at the Captain's Lounge Studios, located in Longmont, Colorado. I'm Nigel Eaves, the host of this particular show. Phil Kelley, thank you once again. Goodbye.